back to my channel. Yes, today's Thursday, and we all know Croaker Drinker and his thoughts. Give him a follow if you like, if you want to. But let's start greetings while we get ahead of ourselves. Hello, my name is Daniel. I'll be host your
guy in the chair.
He said it!
And today we're here to Croaker Drinker's thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 2, The Scar Giver. So, enjoy.
You know, usually when it comes to reviewing movies, it's better to focus on the big picture rather than getting hung up on the little details. But sometimes, just sometimes, a movie comes along which is so monumentally terrible, and the scale of the flaws and problems so vast that it practically defies the ability of any film critic to properly convey. Unless you're one of those insane individuals that makes 5-hour videos talking about a single film. Anyway, that being the case, sometimes it actually does help to break a terrible movie down into smaller, more manageable chunks. A certain character, a particular story event, or in this case, a single 3-minute scene, the likes of which I've never experienced in all my years of consuming media. A scene which somehow manages to effortlessly fuse together overwrought soap opera melodrama, horrific acting, baffling creative choices, and grandiose allusions to classical history that feel more out of place than Movie Bob at a salad bar. And does it all with such pompous, self-important seriousness that it genuinely had me laughing out loud at the idea that the creator probably considers it a piece of cinematic arts. You don't need me to tell you that the film in question is Rebel Moon Part 2, and the scene that I want to focus on today is a flashback to a pivotal event in main character Korra's backstory. Because honestly, I think this one scene perfectly encapsulates all of Zack Snyder's major problems as a filmmaker, and I actually joked on Open Bar that you could spend an entire video picking it apart. So here I am, making an entire video picking it apart. Anyway, allow me to set the scene for anyone lucky enough not to have watched this piece of shit. So Korra, our generic strong female character, was once a highly decorated military officer in a kind of galactic space empire presided over by a benevolent royal family. Because, you know, super advanced pan-galactic civilizations with cultures that haven't progressed beyond the level of medieval feudalism are totally a believable thing. Bullshit! The scene in question takes place during the commissioning of the newly completed Dreadnought, the latest and greatest warship in the fleet, and the king and his family are there to oversee the ceremony, not knowing that they're actually walking into a trap set by their treacherous right-hand man, Belisarius. And for some reason, they've decided to hold the ceremony in the ship's boiler room of all places. I mean, call me crazy if you like, but shouldn't something like this be done somewhere more comfortable and appropriate, like the bridge, where you can have flybys and all kinds of pomp and ceremony? Or maybe the hangar deck, where there's enough space for the ship's company to muster for inspection and listen to boring speeches while they contemplate the horrible reality that they're probably all going to be killed in a slow-motion action scene made by a pretentious wannabe auteur director whose aspirations far outstrip his abilities. Anyway, I digress. Now, you might think this actually makes sense because it's all a ploy to get the royal family somewhere out of the way and murder them with as few witnesses as possible. Makes sense, right? The thing is, everything else in the scene completely contradicts this idea. For a start, the king doesn't seem even remotely confused about being brought down here. In fact, he seems pretty pleased when he first walks into the room, which suggests that he expected to come here. He only begins to suspect that something's wrong when he notices the furnaces aren't lit.
Where is the Kali? Why aren't the furnaces lit?
Oh yeah, this super advanced warship capable of interstellar travel is powered by literal coal-fired boilers. I have got absolutely no explanation for how such a propulsion system might work, and I bet Zack Snyder doesn't either. It also kind of contradicts what we see later in the film where Korra goes to the actual engine room, which seems to have a giant head as the engine core. It gets even more wild if you're retarded enough to venture into the Rebel Moon wiki, where you'll find out that dreadnoughts are actually powered by interdimensional gods known as Kalis. Yeah, sure, okay. Also, the idea that Belisarius wanted to do this thing with as few witnesses as possible kind of falls apart when you realise that he's brought his own orchestra specially for the occasion. That'll be these guys over here with the bags on their heads.
You serious?
Ah, but Drinker, the bags are there to stop them seeing what's about to happen. No witnesses. Genius. Well, not really, because if they couldn't see, then they wouldn't be able to play their instruments in the first place, and they actually alter the tempo of their music to match what's going on in the room, so clearly they can see what's happening. This right here is an example of someone trying very hard to work diegetic sound into his film, which I'm willing to bet is something that Zack Snyder discovered right before making this movie, decided it was cool, and forced into the script without pausing to consider if it actually makes any sense. But what exactly is diegetic sound, you might ask? Well, basically it's a soundtrack that actually exists within the world of the movie, which both the characters and the audience can hear, as opposed to non-diegetic sound, which is something that's added purely for the audience's benefit to heighten the emotion or drama of a particular scene. The closest example I could give you would be this scene from Titanic, where the ship's orchestra decides to play one final melody as the ship sinks beneath them. It's meant to serve as a moment of poignant reflection amongst all the chaos and drama of the sinking, because it's intercut with various scenes of other characters that have chosen to accept their fate. The elderly couple that have decided to go out together, the mother putting her children to bed for the last time, the captain that's resigned to go down with his ship, the architect whose greatest creation is falling down around him, people from all different walks of life bound together by the same fate and choosing to meet it in their own unique ways. And in a wider sense, you can kind of view this as the last moments of relative calm before all semblance of order and discipline finally breaks down and the ship's final minutes become a frantic, desperate struggle for survival. It's a moment for the audience to pause and take a collective breath, to pull back from the overwhelming destructive spectacle and reflect on the individual human stories caught up in it all. All of this is to say that diegetic sound, when properly used, can be a pretty effective tool for bringing the audience and the characters just a little closer together and effectively setting an emotional tone that feels consistent with the events taking place. And it works well in this case because none of it feels out of place or contradictory. We know already that the ship's orchestra is a thing which exists in this movie because we've seen them playing throughout the night, so their appearance in this scene is entirely consistent and logical. And actually, this shit really did happen on the actual Titanic as it sank. Instead of abandoning their posts, the orchestra carried on playing until they were swept away by the rising waters and died to the last man. Damn man, what a boss way to go out. Anyway, I better carry on here because I'm doing everything possible to avoid talking about this shitty film. So Zack Snyder obviously decided he wanted to do something similar with this movie because, you know, classical music is for smart people, right? And he wanted his movie to be smart. Hence the orchestra with the bags on their heads. But the question is, why? The whole reason for bringing the royal family here is for Belisarius to murder them with as few witnesses as possible. You don't need the orchestra to get them into the room. They're just an added complication that you're going to have to deal with later. But man, it sounds cool, right, Zach? Anyway, it's time for Belisarius to spring his trap. Extremely slowly. So he and the other senators, or whatever the fuck they are, surround the king and his wife and pull out knives. In a world where laser guns exist.
Not a great plan.
Why? Because Zack Snyder probably read about the assassination of Julius Caesar by his own senators right before making this film and thought, that's cool, let's put that in my movie too. Honestly, I'm surprised the king didn't say, it's to Belisarius right before he got murdered. Then it's time for Cora to pitch in too, so she turns around and guns down what I assume are supposed to be the king's bodyguards, which prompted another question from me. What the fuck were these guys doing while a bunch of men armed with knives slowly surrounded their king? Surely they must have realized that bad things were about to happen. Maybe they were enjoying the orchestra too much. So with the king and his wife dead, there's only one loose end to tie up. The magical glowing girl who's the key to everything. This job falls on Cora for some reason and leads to what may be the greatest line delivery in the history of cinema.
Do it. No. Do it. Kill her.
Do we have to put up with this? I mean, can't we get a better actor? I know it's a small part, but I think we can do better than this.
Fuck me, where did they find this guy? So she kills the magical glowy girl, but oh no, obvious bad guy does obvious bad guy thing and betrays her because he wants to pin the whole assassination on her instead, and so he has her arrested.
Oh, come on!
Wait, what? The king and queen were killed with knives and Cora was armed with a pistol, so how the fuck was that supposed to work? Also, why arrest her and take the chance that she might be able to get the true story out there when you could just kill her right there and then and make up any story you want? Why do your goons grab her by the arm but don't actually disarm her? I mean, you know she's just gonna break free and... Ah, fuck it. You know, I think my favourite moment of this whole scene is the fact that the orchestra are still playing, even though weapons are being discharged and people are screaming, and it must be very obvious that all is not going according to plan. Like, if a firefight erupts here in such a confined space, there's a pretty good chance that you're gonna get hit by a stray round. But nah, just keep playing, guys. The Titanic band's got nothing on this kind of dedication. So then Cora has Belisarius dead to rights, and instead of pulling the trigger and ending this whole thing right here and now, she decides to just run away and leave a dangerous and powerful enemy unharmed for absolutely no reason. Then she just walks right out of the room and kills two guys behind the door because I guess she magically knew they were gonna be there. Still playing music, eh? Also, how does one woman manage to escape from a heavily secured warship with thousands of crew on board? Why don't they shoot her out of the sky the moment she gets airborne? Why is any of this shit happening? Don't know. I said before that this one scene perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with this movie and Zack Snyder as a filmmaker, but it's not until I started really breaking it down that I began to appreciate the layers of retardation compounding together on it. Almost nothing about it makes any sense or follows a logical sequence of events and decisions. It's all just a collection of superficially cool but completely incongruous stuff lumped together into 3 minutes of absolute insanity, and the fact that I had to spend so long explaining all the problems it creates should give you some sense of what a monstrosity the entire movie is. It's exactly what happens when you allow shallow, superficial ideas and pompous self-importance to take priority over cohesive writing, and honestly, you could practically use this whole thing as a case study for how not to make movies. Take care, ye who would follow in Snyder's footsteps. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Hey guys, I hope y'all enjoyed that. Here his little review rant on Rebel Moon Discard Giver. But I liked it. I didn't love it, but I liked it. It was entertaining. Then if you want to get into the deep dive, I'll listen to him. But you all can like what you want to like. It's a free country. And a free world, basically. Well, let's not get into that. And sorry, I'm so sweaty. I worked out before I got on. But still, let's hope you like what you saw. You want to see more of this? Like it, comment down below, and then subscribe and hit the notification bell or button, whichever one you choose, to be notified every time I post a new video, and then share. And I want to know what you think about it. Let me know in the comments. If you saw it, or if you're going to see it, sound off. And bye.